Forensic science, the ability to look beyond the unseen, to gain a picture of things not so apparent. ArcherSage and I, we have been examining photographs from NASA's archives, Russia's archives, and Japan's. And we have used forensic software on their data, the raw images, to paint a better picture of what's not apparent and what is not clearly seen. But before we start on that, I want to give you a globe earther's point of view of his own sciences. I present to you voyeur reasoning.
I don't for a second think that NASA, along with every other public and private space enterprise, and every other scientifically literate person in the entire world, are involved in a massive conspiracy to hide the truth from us. That's a claim that demands really strong evidence. But let's leave them out of it. I cannot prove to you that the images and videos from space are real, and you cannot prove that they are fake.
A couple things here. He said he finds it hard to believe that all the public and private sectors have somehow band together in order to form a conspiracy to fake space. Well, ArcherSage is going to be with me in just a few moments here in this video, and we're going to prove that is exactly what's going on. The other thing he said is he can't prove that all that space footage you saw is real. And that's kind of concerning because basically what he's saying is even if it wasn't real, he's going to hold on to his ball. And here's the thing. If it's not real, they're faking space for a reason, people. There is a reason they are faking it if that's not real. And the answer is simply because we can't get into Earth orbit like orbital mechanics are explained to us. This photo you've been staring at for probably too long now was taken by Soundly. And Soundly put this on his Google Drive as a raw image to prove that he's not tampered with these photos in any way, to show that the water is in fact curved. And there's more to this. I've already made a couple videos on it, and there is more to this than what I've told you, and the rest of it is pretty amazing, and I'll get that video out soon. But according to Soundly, these are raw images, unedited. Now, to be fair, this video was labeled enhanced, and so I'm not sure how Soundly enhanced it. Maybe made it curve more, maybe he lightened it up, I don't know. But we can take forensic software and study the DNA inside of this photo, because this photo leaves specific signatures that are only inherent to the cameras that have taken the photo. And this allows us to go in and we can tell if a photo's been photoshopped, we can tell if the photo's been recompressed, we can tell if the photo's been resaved, and we can even tell if the photo is actually a render from some 3D modeling program. So I'm putting the photo in our forensic software and I'm going to check out the photo's DNA. And this DNA will tell me if this photo's been edited and what camera was used. Here we see that was taken by a Canon EOS Rebel T5. And this photo has been edited in a paint program called paint.net. So this photo is not a raw image. This next picture we're going to examine in our forensic software is a 3D model of the Sears or Willis Tower. And I modeled this for a video I never actually got around to making. It's modeled to scale. And what ArcherSage and I have found is that modeling software leave the same types of signature, which happens to be 2 cell phones in our specific forensic software. Interesting enough, all pictures of planets or the Earth from Russia, Japan, or the United States, NASA, also have the same modeling signature in their photograph's DNA. So let's look. So checking my model in our photo forensic software, we find that there is a match for the Treo 680 and the BlackBerry cell phone. Both have a hit of yes. And these are the same exact digital signatures we're getting from the models of the Earth from the Japan Mirari, Russia, and the Epic Discover. Here's a photo I made in Blender of Jupiter. It is a 3D model, and I've taken Photoshop and I've added the International Space Station to my photo. Now this is called a composite because this composite is made of several different photos, the star background, the International Space Station, and Jupiter. And so we wanted to know if we could use a model software, put it through Photoshop, save it in Photoshop, and pick up the Photoshop digital signature, or the DNA. With my Jupiter at the lab to get a forensic analysis, we can look through here and find out exactly where it was on my hard drive. These codes here are actually Photoshop editing codes. So we already got a pretty good clue that it was Photoshopped. And as you can see, as we examine our DNA in our photograph, this photo was in fact Photoshopped, and it even tells us the version of Photoshop used. No surprise, most of NASA's photographs have the Photoshop DNA all over them. Coming up next, ArcherSage. Yeah, okay, Rob Simmons, he gave you a link, right? You messaged him, he gave you a link. And he gave you the link to the world government's how to fake space picture repository. Is that correct?
It was GDAL is the program they use, but GDAL is linked to the Natural Earth website, which is where they get their maps from.
So Rob Simmons, when he sent you that link, it basically was saying, here, this is how the United States does it, but not only the United States, Japan and Russia also.
Yeah, the main people, in space programs, they're all doing the same thing.
And Rob Simmons had no qualms about sending you the link and giving you all the images and photos that they reuse over and over to make their ball model Earths hovering on a black background in space.
The source files that he gave, he's admitted, it doesn't come from strip data whatsoever, because I get the same data.
Right.
Without the strip in it from the model that they already provided. It's the equidistant projection map with cloud data. They're two separate files. You overlay it, and you wrap it around the globe, and you add the sunlight, and whatnot. So that's all that's happening. It's really that simple, but they do go to Natural Earth, where they download the projection coding that they put into the program, and then they basically give the command, and it instantly forms the continents into the correct positions to be on a sphere.
And then you just take those, throw them in Photoshop, put some clouds and stuff, and bam, we got a picture of Earth.
Yeah. And they all look different, so they must be from different places, right?
It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah.
And Rob Simmons,
think about the white circle, though.
Right.
The white circle, or that's where we live.
Yeah, I don't understand why they just wouldn't put their finished model on a background in Photoshop. I don't know why they try to fit it in that circle, but I guess
a lot of them were a match for Photoscape, which is a program I use, which registers as a Casio camera,
right,
and a Syntax. Whenever you save, exact same signature. And in Photoscape, I've shown how I can make the Atlas stones look like a moon. But you can do the same thing with Earth image. You can take a square in Photoscape, do a white circle. It literally looks like he did it in Photoscape, and he did do it in Photoscape. But then what they do is they superimpose the 3D image on top of that. It's really that simple. They're using software. These are supposed to be raw images, raw in the way that they are JPEG, but they're supposed to be coming straight to them from these cameras, converted to JPEG, and they upload them straight onto the site real time. But we know that's not true.
Okay, so just if I do run this video, just for people to know, the Casio signature. The Casio is a company that makes digital cameras, and with those digital cameras,
software,
they release software for your digital camera that is a free compression that other softwares use. And so this is why we're getting the Casio digital signature on a lot of our space. Would you call it science? Our space sciences.
And the Sony CyberShot. CyberShot's another one that matched a Russian electro image. The D1, sorry, not D1, the L1 and the L2, the two different ones that Russia's released. All the L2s match Sony. All the L1s match Casio.
So
So we know that one of them's at least saved through Photoscape, even though it could be made in a modeling software first and then put in Photoscape to retouch. It still proves that they're not raw. They're extremely processed. Nothing about it is honest.
right, and we know modeling software. If you render it, or whether you render it in with Cycles, Lightwave, Final Render, Mental Ray, 3ds Max, it leaves a digital signature that matches the Sony CyberShot as modeling software. And so when we see the MRI Earth images or these other planet images, we're getting the same modeling software compression signature on those images that are supposed to be raw.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I showed in my last video how easy it is to just go on Google, search JPEG compressor, upload the file, resave it, and then JPEG Snoop can't detect anything.
Right,
Anything.
because you just recompress the images over and over, and you know,
which is what they're doing with the Curiosity photos.
Right, they're covering.
Curiosity doesn't register anything at all,
which means none of them are raw photos.
No, but what's also weird is the Juno spacecraft. Their raw files are PNG, and I don't know of any camera that shoots in PNG.
Well, PNG is harder to analyze forensically. It's a transparency picture format, and there's really no reason to save a PNG with any photograph because PNGs are used for transparencies like text and stuff like that.
Yeah, the black background on all the images are probably where it was pasted over, but you know, if it was a JPEG image, I wish it was because I really wanted to do the analysis on the Juno raw images, but they were all PNG, and I just can't do much with it. And photo forensics usually won't mess with anything that's not a JPEG either.
Right. Now we ArcherSage, you have tied all some major world governments here with faking space. They use the same repository of photos.
And it's public.
And it's public. And they use the same maps. And you showed me where you can like put in the coordinates and get what type of map projection you want. And they take that, put it in an imaging software like Photoshop, and boom, up to bam, we have our space pictures. Russia, Japan, and United States are using the same images, the same techniques, and of course, you know, the European Space Agency are using the same things. Have you examined anything from them, or it just all falls in together under the same umbrella?
Yeah, I haven't looked. I'm trying to find as many supposed real-time Earth images that I possibly can, but every single one I've found, from the Ghost satellite to Himawari to Discover to Electro, it doesn't matter. They all use the same model, but they're not being done by hand. They're not being. You can't create a new Earth photo every 10 to 20 to 30 minutes. It would be too risky to do it that way. So that's why supercomputers process it. They have algorithms that are designed to rotate it. It rotates the model on a 24-hour basis to resemble a full spin or one rotation of the Earth, and it has a built-in terminator line, so it appears to be what parts are in darkness and whatnot. And then the only difference is it gives real-time weather data. But the thing is, it only needs weather data on the side facing the viewer. They don't have to get weather around the whole globe. They just have to get weather from one spot over this side of the Earth. So they can just focus on whichever side's in daylight, and it's automatically uploaded. But if you believe what they say, they can actually project weather patterns in clouds, cloud formations, many months in advance. So if what they're saying is true, then they can actually have already had this stuff made weeks ago. They're just uploading it today. So it depends on what you want to believe.
Well, they tell you it's from a satellite, but then when you go like tweet somebody like Rob Simmons or talk to one of them.
I asked him. I said, tell me what the process is, because I know that you're putting this stuff over a black background. And instead of responding directly to the question, he just sent me to the GDAL program, which is just basically modeling software.
Right, and they'll tell you we don't have satellites. We're not doing this by satellites. This is how we do it. Here's our links. Here's what we use. And by the way,
But
Russia and
Spire
Japan are
really
using
bad.
it, right? That's what's going on. And Rob Simmons had no issues, and other NASA employees have no issues telling us exactly how they're faking it. And yet the media that's broadcasting these images out, people believe that instead because they're not doing their own homework. And it's not, NASA's not lying exactly. They're lying to the media public where the image came from, but if you just call them up and ask, they'll tell you. Is that your experience?
Yeah, I thought it would be harder to find, you know, like this is some sort of hidden private server that you got to hack into, but it's just public. The maps are public, the models, the software is public, everything's public, and it's just a matter of looking for it. You just got to look. If you don't look, you can't find it. But you know, if you look for it, you'll see. Oh, there it is. There's your, you know, you go into the GOES FTP server, and you can see where all the Himawari and GOES images have transparent checkered backgrounds, where they're pasting it over a fake black background to simulate space. Why would they do that if this was a genuine photograph? Because they're not. They're models pasted. They're all doing the same thing. And, of course, they all match the same exact dimensions, even though they're three different space agencies. So, obviously, they're all using the same thing.
Right. Now, a lot of people on my channel have said, well, if what you're saying is true, Mike, that the Earth's not a ball, and how is it that all these space agencies are all band together? That's impossible. I don't believe they're all together on this. And folks, we've been trying to tell you. And when you watch YouTube videos, and I haven't talked about this in any of my videos yet, but when you hear about the New World Order, okay, or the Illuminati, or the shadow government, or the Freemasonry societies, or the Jesuit order, or the Pope and his order, or whatever order that is, there is a government behind all the big governments controlling everything. And ArcherSage has just proved this when it comes to faking space. They're all in it on together, people. They are all on the same page. And you know, somebody says, well, why doesn't you know, one debunk the other? One said that. I think Jaron said it best. If we go debunking China, because China's space program's horrible, their own people have busted them faking things. Like, and China completely took down their moon live images and stuff because they weren't able to do it properly. But
it would have looked good in the 60s.
It would have, yeah, in the 60s and shaky black and white TV where you had to bang the side of your set to get a reception, yes. But not today. And it's staring at you in the face, people. These governments are working together. You know, the Bible talks about, and Daniel talks about the beast system, the fourth beast. The fourth and the last beast is here. And the beast system is comprised of governments. Now, YouTube calls them the NWO or New World Order, but they're talking about the same thing. And when the same beast system is in the book of Revelations. And folks say they're working together. Go ahead.
And when people say, this is too hard to fake, what reason could they possibly have? What motivation? That's like saying, you know, or when people say they would get caught, this is too dangerous, too risky. And why do people rob banks?
Yeah.
You know they can get caught. They can get arrested. They can get fined.
Yeah.
Why would you do such a thing? Because the reward outweighs the risk.
Right.
Just like anything. Why do criminals do anything? For profit. For some people, it is worth deceiving others to make that profit. And yes, all these space agencies are making a killing from others, from using deception. So it's the same reason why somebody robs a gas station, they rob a store, they do anything deceitful or dishonest to make money. It's just another way of doing that.
Okay, so, and I heard that on another YouTube video. Money is the motivating factor.
It is a huge motivating factor.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, NASA has stolen $18 billion from the American people this year.
That's it.
Well, NASA, but look at how much
not since not since. Are you talking about since 1963?
No, $18 billion was the budget this year.
Yeah, so you can stack that up a little more.
They add up. You go year after year. We're hitting trillions of dollars here. And the ESA, they're stealing from their people too. Russia, I'm not sure how the tax system is set up there. They're in the same boat with Japan. We're all in this together, faking
what
space.
It also is a power. It's a power thing. If you're in control of space, that gives the illusion of authority. It's just another controlling method, just like the Star Wars program in the United States. Like, we got space lasers, we got this stuff looking down at you. We can just tap this or that if we want to.
Make you a crispy fry. Yeah.
It's the same concept. So it's another way for government, not just like during the Cold War. Basically, to make one way of controlling people is not only to have them fear your own government, but to have them fear another government or another country. And that's what they're doing. So they create this illusion of a space race. Like, these people are all competing to get in charge of space, and it's whoever gets there will have it's that mentality, that gang mentality of it's us versus them. When in reality, a lot of these nations are deceiving their own people, but they have them focusing on other countries. It's the same power method that's been used since the beginning of time.
Right, absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up because somebody asked me, well, why doesn't one of our Christian people in office spill the beans, and why doesn't Trump spill the beans? And here's the thing, and just what
I don't think Trump likes NASA.
Yeah, here's what ArcherSage said. We have built national security based on a lie, and so if we come clean, we lose that awe of power over all these little countries. Because China, Russia, us, the UN, we're all together. And by portraying ourselves as these technological giants, that keeps all these little countries in check. I mean, for example, look what a little country like Germany did. They almost had taken over the world. And so even if we came clean and said, well, we can't spy on you, we can't nuke you, we don't have all the space technology really, that presents a danger then from all these little countries who feel froggy and want to jump.
North Korea.
Well, North Korea is a psyop.
Yeah, but that's another example.
They're not even real.
Americans they're the new Russia.
Yeah.
And Americans are like, oh my gosh, they're testing rockets. They fired one in the direction of Hawaii. We need to nuke. It's that attitude.
Yeah.
It's all fear mongering again. And if the United States said that North Korea, their military was invading California right now, most American, you would do as you were told. If you're like, here's what we got to do, guys. CNN's broadcasting. I could see it now. Everybody go here, do this. They put us in concentration camps. Nobody'd even know. I mean, it's just another method of control. Just like if they tell you a bomb's coming, you get under the desk.
Right. We're not worried about North Korea. Okay.
Yeah, I know. But I'm giving an example.
Right. It's all a psyop. You're right. It is a psyop.
It's all fear based, just like nuclear bombs, just like all these things. They're all just. It's a new enemy. Anytime they have a new one, they throw it up there because it keeps people in check.
Right, because here's the thing. North Korea, well, they tested a nuclear missile. They lost the satellite in space. They lost a nuclear sub. None of the missile tests worked.
You mean there's no photographs of their satellites?
Well, North Korea's fell out of the sky, I guess, and crashed on the ground. But the thing is, supposedly North Korea is doing this. Okay, then some far Middle Eastern country, they released sarin gas, which is a nerve gas, possibly hurt 20 people, possibly. We don't even know. And we have a knee-jerk reaction to that, and we go bomb some of the buildings over what might have not even happened. But we just sit back and broadcast the fact North Korea is detonating nuclear weapons. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like to get into politics and stuff with people, because people start debating politics as if the facts that they're given to debate it with are true to begin with, and that's a fallacy.
It is a fallacy.
So you can't debate politics with politics.
No, it's all fake. All the news is a money-making, Showtime media scoundreling of the American people and the world public in general. None of it is real.
And the Glober's favorite argument to use is the argument from authority. It's a classic fallacy that people like to use for the longest time. It's the same reason why, it's like saying your high school teacher. You can't question this teacher because they have a degree. So nothing you say, unless you have the same degree, could possibly be valid. And it's the same thing that we're seeing here with the space agencies. These guys are engineers. They're rocket scientists. Who are you to question? Well, either the argument's valid or it's not. A good argument is valid. A bad argument is invalid, regardless of the source. Now, even though you're religious, okay, but when you get into a debate, they would quoting from the Bible would for some people be considered an argument from authority. Now, the authority that they claim, which is NASA or the space agencies, I don't believe in the authority from which they're quoting, from which they're quoting from. So I'm not going to fall into the trap of argument from authority, because to use that argument, we have to both agree. We have to both agree that this is an authority figure, which I don't. And so I have an opinion based on what you're telling me that I disagree with who you're quoting as an authority figure in that argument. So when somebody says they're NASA, who are you? They know way more than you. You're not as smart as them. That's not an argument. That's a fallacy.
Well, yeah, and supposedly we're science deniers, but even the so-called experts in courts of law don't agree with each other. So,
yeah,
so how do you know who you're quoting is correct? Well, that's the accepted science. Well, by whose standards?
Well, even in their model, Einstein he was a high school dropout. Therefore, he should have never been able to question any of his colleagues who finished high school.
Not by today's standards, no.
No, not by today's standards.
He wouldn't be able to.
Even though I'm not a big relativity guy, but he questioned Newton's version of gravity. The two Einsteinian gravity is completely different. How could he do such a thing? Doesn't he know that Isaac Newton's an authority figure on the subject? So using the same logic, why can't we? And they are, by the way, quantum. You see, and quantum physicists are completely disagreeing with Einstein now, and it's acceptable in that field. Right. In another field, that's sacrilegious.
Right. Well, quantum mechanics is a whole different study. That matter has consciousness, and I was actually arguing. Well, not arguing, but there's some Christians that have a knee-jerk reaction to those studies, but I believe those studies are true and valid. I believe all physical matter has a consciousness.
And everything is belief-based. Even though, what I present as evidence that NASA's lying to us about these images, it is my opinion, and it's my opinion based on the evidence I found. Now, the evidence may not be enough to convince you, but they are enough to convince me, and that's what we all are doing. So everybody presents that evidence for their case, and you make your opinion on it. That's what life is. There is, no matter how much evidence you have for something, there's always evidence against something. So how come in a court case there's always a for and against?
Right, by two
evidence against.
By two experts.
So go ahead.
By two experts in the field. All right, go on.
Yeah. So, but the point is, you can have valid arguments, even though somebody's obviously guilty. Well, most people say obviously guilty. You can have pretty good convincing arguments that they're not guilty, and vice versa, even in the face of a mountain of evidence, right? And usually, just one piece of evidence is enough to overturn somebody's opinion about if somebody's guilty or not. So how come from thousands of images, if all these images, which are the majority of Earth images that have been released, because there's so many taken per day, if all of these are fabricated, don't you think that would be something that would at least make you question the validity of the images? It should.
Well, it won't. It doesn't for some, and that's because we are created. Go ahead.
That's the overwhelming majority of Earth images. The amount taken during the Apollo program versus how many supposedly are taken every day. Terabytes of data.
They're all generated by computer. We know, and they tell us this. But people will not question it if they have a faith-based belief in it. It's called indoctrination. And indoctrination does not have an ability to be critical against the thing which indoctrinated it. In other words, if somebody wants to believe in space, they cannot have any logic or cognitive thinking that would go against their faith
in wanting to be in space. Logic will never rise past that level of faith they have in what they want to believe. And we see this in a lot of globe earthers who post on our channels. Despite the evidence we present them, they will run to make excuses for these people, like the guy hanging on the wires. He was exercising. One guy told me that's in a utility belt. You know, my laser test I posted up there on ice, taking it 7.5 miles, 20 feet of Earth curvature missing. I hear, well, gravity bends light. And that's what we hear. Because they're unable to process anything that would harm their religion or their faith belief in the spinning ball. You're incapable.
And, you know, the Bible and the Quran and many books support a flat earth model. The ancient Egyptians, the Phoenicians, you know, most of them, I say most of them, all of them believed in a flat earth with, you know, with the corners, with actual corners, which kind of goes against the flat earthers' favorite map today, which is the ice ring.
The azimuthal equidistance projection, right, or the Gleasons. Yeah. Which I'm glad you brought up, because I met somebody who agrees with Scripture like I do about the Earth map, because the Bible does not at all support the azimuthal equidistance projection, and it does not support the Gleasons. The Bible does not if you take all the Scriptures and compare. And so I met somebody today, and I got him on Skype here. I guess he lives in Europe, so he's probably, I don't know what he's doing out sleeping, but we're going to talk and compare notes. You know, I don't believe space is physical. I believe we're looking at space through a dimensional flat plane. And so,
and a lot of people say, well, it has to be a globe because, you know, no matter where you are on the Earth, you go south, you hit the South Pole. Well, even on the flat maps, even the ones that are made on the blue marble, they have the whole South Pole going across the entire bottom of the map, which means no matter where you are, if you go south, you will hit Antarctica. It works the same on a flat plane as it does on a ball. South, you know, you go south, you're going to hit the South Pole. You're going to hit Antarctica no matter where you go south from.
Right.
So
and
it works either way.
What they're not displaying on a lot of these maps is the North Pole. The North Pole is actually covered in ice. It's just a big sea of ice. And some of the ESA maps have it like that, but the North Pole is not open oceans like you see on Google Earth. It is totally, completely ice.
Yeah, because that's where Santa Claus comes from.
Well, yeah, he has to live somewhere. Reindeer have to live somewhere. And we have to get our toys from somewhere. So
we get them from NASA. It's like a brand new present every time NASA releases a photo for me.
It is. And NASA, you know, when I first started, you know, I thought they were like trying to hide and deceive. But the more you look into it, if you'll go past the government media sciences that are puked out on us from CBS, CNN, Fox, and you'll just go to their websites and you call some of their people and talk to them, they'll tell you the truth. There's no satellites in space. They're faking everything. And they're sharing this information with all the other governments, world governments, and they're using the same exact images, same exact programs to fake space.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Feed Your Mind? Somebody called a NASA guy about the Sophia and the Hubble. Did you see that?
Right.
They couldn't. I mean, the first guy couldn't even answer. You know, basically, they can't even tell you the difference between the two. And there's pretty good evidence that what they've called the Hubble for a long time is in fact being taken from an airplane, because now they're openly doing it with Sophia and say they actually get better images from an airplane than they've ever got with the Hubble telescope in space. Does that make any sense?
No, and we've always been able to get better images from ground observatories than Hubble anyways, from day one.
Exactly.
I mean, that...
But so many of the places that they've shown us, we can't verify from Earth, right? Even though they did supposedly land on the side of the moon that faces Earth, we should be able to find the landing sites with telescopes, right?
One would think. I mean, one would think, because I mean, you could see, what's that one crater NASA said you could see with your eyes? Can't think of the name of it, but yeah, go on.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, some of these craters are only like 7 or 8 football fields around.
Right.
Yet you can zoom in and have it fill your frame with a 500 millimeter camera.
Yeah, and we can see these craters with Tycho, the Tycho crater. It's 54 miles in diameter. You can see it clearly with your eyes. And as you said, you can take a camera and zoom in, and it'll fill your whole view.
Yeah.
So why can't we just zoom in just a little bit, like get a Coolpix Plus P901 or something, and zoom in just a little bit more and see the moon landing sites?
Yeah. Well, it's the same problem as there's supposedly a lot of images of Earth that are coming from like Landsat, supposedly very far away, actually higher up above the Earth than it is in lunar orbit with the LRO. They can supposedly zoom down and get very fine details, really high resolving power, right, on these Earth viewing satellites. But the LRO just can't zoom in to fully see those landing sites. You just get that little speck of shadow, and they tell you that's the landing site. It says the resolving power is actually better on the LRO than many of the Landsat, and not only that, it's closer in orbit, right? So it should actually see more. And then the other thing is there's no atmosphere to look through. Why can't we get a good photo from the LRO? I mean, it'll be easy to fake it too. That's the thing. Even if they release a good-looking one, still wouldn't believe it. It's just going to show you how lazy they are.
Right. Well, yeah, and even when Globebusters, not Globebusters, Mythbusters.
Same thing.
Yes, same thing. Adam, he went to that observatory to shoot the laser, and supposedly they're going to shoot this laser, hit the moon, and bounce it off one of these reflectors. And so I'm watching the episode. I'm thinking, cool. I'm going to see this laser go up, hit the moon, and see it bounce off this reflector. They're going to zoom in really close for us. And not only do we not see the moon, but we don't see the laser being shot. And this lady hands Adam this data, and it's like a little chart. And she goes, see, that's where the laser hit. And Adam's like, that's amazing.
But then they supposedly do that before the moon landings, though, without a mirror.
I don't know.
They say they did. They say they did, which using their own information would debunk the necessity for a mirror to begin with.
Right. And here's the thing, folks. You've got to actually land on the moon to get moon rocks and leave reflectors. And we haven't done that.
No, you get the moon rocks from Hawaii and Iceland. Like Neil Armstrong said, if I took he actually said, I put it in one of my videos, if I got a rock, a piece of limestone from Iceland, and told you it was from the moon, you wouldn't know the difference. And he told you that.
Right. Yeah, but whether they radiate them or something, or they compress them.
Yeah, they expose them to radiation, and they blast them with impacts to give it the impact signature. So geologists, when they look under a microscope, will say, "Oh, look, it looked like it was hit by something."
Yeah.
And it's radiated. That must be because there's no atmosphere. It's just solar radiation on the moon.
Right, soaking up all those sun rays, tanning rocks on the moon. All right, ArcherSage, I appreciate you talking. I'm going to cut this off right now, all right?
Sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye. Here you have the LRO, supposedly circling the moon, but it's not. The surface of the moon is a model, and they pasted the Earth in the background in a perfect black background. And even though this photo was taken on one pass with 2 different cameras and the photos merged together, NASA photoshopped out some rocks and cleaned up some of the masking around the Earth. And the thing is that they left the original up that they originally made. They don't care. And they know that it's the 90-10 rule. If 90 people want to believe in space, well, the 10 are going to look like idiots if they don't. We are approaching the time, folks, where the end is drawing near. I was reading some news today about them wanting to pass laws to make pedophilia legal. Chicago school system, they had something in there about teaching 5th graders, sex education, how to have anal sex. That's where this country's headed. Pretty soon, we're going to have like 12 bathrooms to choose from the LGBT community. And I hope to get back to teaching Scripture like I did before my YouTube channel, and get some answers and get some help and get some hope to you people. I pray for all you subs, and I appreciate you, and so does ArcherSage. And we're going to keep seeking the truth and getting it out so that you can be prepared. This is Mike. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.